So I've been seeing a lot of people talking about the new M1 MacBook Pro, and I just want to give my opinion out there as a basic consumer, not as like a very big tech reviewer, but someone who also uses Macs every single day. As you know, I did a review on the new 13-inch 2020 MacBook Pro, and I also use my PC every single day. Now let's talk about the speed. The processor obviously is very fast, especially considering that it basically came from an iPad. So the fact that we have an 8-core CPU inside of a MacBook Pro is incredible. That just does wonderful things for multitasking and multi-core performances, but you just need to remember that it is running on the ARM process, which means it has to translate the binary from an x86 code to the ARM compatible binary. So you're losing a bit of CPU resources doing that, which means in all the regular stress tests and everything that people do everyday tests, like editing or anything like that, it seems like there's no real advantage in this CPU yet. But that doesn't mean that in the future there won't be. Now, another thing to think about is longevity for this machine. Now, Apple is normally pretty good about updating all their iPhones and iPads and everything to their latest operating systems and giving them long lifespans. But Macs, on the other hand, haven't been as great. We've seen a lot of problems upgrading older Macs to Catalina and Big Sur and everything. And I'll give my thoughts on Big Sur separately in a future video too, so stay tuned for that. But I am not convinced that these M1 MacBooks are going to have the longest lifespan. I honestly think they'll probably have a similar lifespan to my 10-inch or my 10th gen Intel MacBook Pro. So basically, what's going to happen is in about 6 months, Apple's probably going to release the M2 or whatever new process they're going to be in with the higher performance MacBook Pro and probably the 16-inch MacBook Pro and maybe an iMac or something like that. So pretty in the near future, I think the M1 chips are going to be outdated and just put into like the budget laptops like the Air and everything, which isn't a bad thing. The performance on the MacBook Air is super impressive, but if you want more performance and a longer lifespan, I think we need to skip on these M1 chips for now. Easy to just get caught up in the shiny new things that come out every single year. And so that's what it feels like with these MacBook Pros. Everyone is in love with them because of the new M1 processor, but I'm not entirely convinced because it just doesn't seem like it's worth it too much. Like, it seems like it'll get a lower lifespan. The performance is exactly the same as my 10th gen MacBook Pro or even a 16-inch MacBook Pro. So performance isn't really that much increased for it. Battery life is, though. So if you really care about battery life, you should go for it. But I don't see a point in paying for something new that has similar performance to what I'm using already. And battery life doesn't matter to me because we're all working from home, so hopefully it doesn't matter to you either. But yeah, I don't think these M1 MacBook Pros are all that useful yet. But in the future, things look promising for them. Hopefully, apps get updated and everything, so we can start using them more for everything, like Photoshop, video editing, all that. So basically, in conclusion, you can bet that I'm going to be excited for the M2 MacBook Pros that come out in about 6 to 9 months probably. But for now, I'm going to stick with my 10th gen Intel MacBook Pro because it's basically the same performance. I don't have to pay extra for it. I have all the apps that work well on it because Photoshop doesn't even work well on the ARM MacBook Pros yet. And I feel like once Photoshop and Final Cut Pro come to I feel like once Photoshop and the entire Adobe suite comes to the ARM-based Apple Silicon natively, that's probably when we're gonna see the M2 chip come out, and I'll just wait for that. So that's why I'm just gonna wait to get the higher spec MacBook Pro or 16-inch MacBook Pro and wait for the next generation of this to come out. All right, thanks for watching.